Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barack Beckett, and today I'll be doing a review of Ghost of Yōtei. Now, Ghost of Yōtei is essentially a kind of sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but it follows a completely different character in a completely different situation. So it's sort of kind of a spiritual successor. Um, this game, off rip, the number one thing I can say that's obvious to anyone who's playing or seen the game is that this game is beautiful. And I'm going to even go so far as to say it is the most beautiful game I've ever played in my entire life. And because of that, for a lot of the time I was attempting to think of this game critically, it challenged me for the simple fact that it was difficult for me to see through the game's beauty to its actual flaws. I mean, one of the first vistas you see is just awe-inspiring. I mean, the colors, the vistas, how essentially open and I guess it's really mainly the colors, honestly. The colors, the shading, the polygon count. I mean, I just can't go on and on about how good this game looks. And it's one of those things where it's like, even though this game looks as good as it is, right? In order to be a quality video game, you have to have quality gameplay, you have to have story. Those are the two main things that I feel make a game, and I'm going to talk about those things now because I have so and so opinions of both the story and the gameplay. Let's start with the story. So when the story started, right, and essentially when I was told the premise of the game, I audibly groaned. Like I said, oh, I basically rolled my eyes in the back of the head. And that's just because the premise of the story is literally as basic as it could possibly get. It's probably the most generic story, I guess, catalyst of all. Dead parents for character motivation, revenge. Like this is basic. And I was a little upset because I'm the type of guy I kind of crave I guess new experiences, particularly in my stories. So I was a little upset at first. However, that being said, even though the premise of the story and a lot of how and a lot of what ends up happening is relatively basic, what the story does do is it's told incredibly well. And the reason I say this is because the voice acting is outstanding. I mean, the main character, Jubei, actually, her name's not Jubei. Jubei's the brother. But the main character, the main lady who you follow throughout the game, her voice actor does a really good job. And the reason I say that is because with her character, it could have been easy for her to come off as a kind of one note, emotionless, revenge focused character. But the voice actor actually provides a relative amount of nuance to her interactions and her conversations. And I mean, she did a really great job. I mean, the voice acting for everybody did a great job. On top of that, these characters are written very well. I mean, the writing in this game is really, really good. That's why I say, even though the premise is relatively basic, the writing that's implemented here is really, really quality. And it made me relish every character interaction because I know it was written well. On top of that, I definitely feel like this game has quality characters, especially the main character that you follow. There aren't too many characters. I mean, you have your main character, the lady you follow throughout the game. You have Jubei. You have another lady, kind of friendish character, and then you have the villains. And I think each main protagonist character has a pivotal role to play, and the way they interact is always interesting. So it got to the point where, as the story progressed, I started to enjoy it more because it went from just a simple revenge plot to there being a little bit more at stake in terms of character motivations, as well as me just, I guess, kind of getting ingrained and immersed into the story. So the story grew on me as it began. As it started, I was not feeling it. but then I started to feel it more. Um, as far as gameplay goes, gameplay is something in this game that I kind of go back and forth on. When the game first started, right, there was a bunch of different swings in my opinion of this game. When the game first started, at the very beginning of the game, I was not very good at it. There was a lot of the game that I didn't understand, like the basics, and that's with any game. So I was having a lot of trouble. I mean, every fight scene was a mess, and that was probably for the first hour and a half or so. Every fight scene was a mess. And then I started to get some of the basics down. So then I started to have a little bit more success. Um, and the reason I'm breaking this all down is because it all has to do with how kind of iffy the difficulty is in this game. I mean, and the best way I can describe it is the game is either uh, let me just explain what I feel about the difficulty. So I was having trouble at the start. I got better because I started to learn the game, and then I started having more issues with the game. Well, not issues, but I had more trouble with the game. And come to find out, it's because the game has a system in which you have a couple, like 4 or 5 different weapons, and each weapon is good against a certain enemy type. Um, and you start off with only one weapon, and then you slowly get them throughout the game. However, each enemy is weak to a certain weapon. So if you have the weapon that the enemy is weak to, you essentially you'll destroy them, like kill them like this. However, you face all the enemy types from pretty much the start of the game, and you only start off with one weapon. What does that mean? It means that you don't have the necessary weapons to counter the opponent that you face at the start of the game. Meaning, the game almost has a inverse difficulty curve because you start off with not the adequate weapons to deal with the opponents you're facing. But as you get the weapons that you need to defeat these characters, you start to chew through them like butter because you have the weapons that counter them. And I think this is a little bit perplexing because usually, I mean, the traditional difficulty curve is the game starts off easy and it improves as you get better at the game. But this game has the inverse difficulty curve for that level. Now that applies to all regular enemies. However, that pretty much goes out the window when it comes to these boss fights. Now that's what I will say about these boss. That's what I'll give this game. These boss fights are fantastic. I mean, they are the epitome of epic. I mean, it's like the battle arena, like the camera angles, like the shots of the two swordsmen face to face. The difficulty, I mean, they do a really good job in these boss fights, and they're definitely a highlight of the game. That being said, this is the part of the game that's actually going to challenge you. Like I said, once you have all the weapons that counter the opponents that you'll be fighting against, you will no longer have much issues with regular opponents. However, a lot of these, and particularly some of the ones towards the end, a lot of these boss fights are going to test you, and you're really going to want to have the mechanics down pat, in particularly pairing. I mean, you can go without pairing for some of the regular encounters, but once you fight some of these bosses, you're going to want to know how to parry. You're going to want to have that timing down, and I think it's fair because I mean the whole point of a boss fight is it being more challenging than a regular fight. So some of these boss fights, I died a bunch. I got a little upset. But yeah, I mean, and it's no Dark Souls, but like you are going to be challenged, especially on the normal difficulty, with some of these boss fights. So, I overall, I thought the boss fights were dope. I thought they were epic, and I thought that it was a basically a good representation of all this game does well, which is presentation, atmosphere, and just overall epicness. Um, Now, overall, I mean, I do feel like I spent a lot of this review being kind of overly critical with this game, and I felt myself playing the game feeling overly critical. Like, I mean, let me just give an example. And this is an issue I had with, I guess, the graphic or technical aspect of the game that I thought it was worth mentioning because I wonder if some of you guys had it too. So with my main character, she kind of, and this sounds like a nitpick, but I have to say it. She wore like a bun, and the outfit I wore the bounty hunter's outfit for pretty much the whole game, and essentially the back of her hair was clipping through the back of the bounty hunter's like shirt. So pretty much the whole game her hair was clipping through her shirt. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's like I'm looking at the back of her hair pretty much the majority of the game because it's a third person game. So I am essentially looking at a glitch the whole game, or at least an error. And it was just something that kind of annoyed me. And I mean, for a game this polished, a game this massive, a game this well, as much money as probably went into this game, little things like these are just kind of annoying. But I mean, all that being said, and I will say, towards the end of the game, it got to a point where I kind of was over the gameplay. Like I said, this game, or not even that I said, but that I want to express, this game is open world. So it kind of is kind of a Ubisoft mold in that there are a bunch of markers. There's a bunch of things in checklists to accomplish within the open world. There's a bunch of side missions to do within the open world. And I started this game off for pretty much 70% of the game, maybe 60, I was doing everything. I was doing all the side missions. I was doing all the bounties. I was doing all side activity. And it was fun for the most part because these side missions, they're better than average side missions within open world games. They're better than average, but they're not amazing. But they are above average. So I enjoyed them for a minute, for at least 70% of the game. But then at the 70% mark, I was like, all right, I'm kind of over this gameplay loop. I'm over these side missions. Not that they're bad, but at a certain point, it's like, okay, there's only so much of this gameplay that I can repetitively complete until I'm like, okay, I need to continue the story. And a lot of the reason that I felt this way is because even though these side missions are quality, there is a noticeable gap in quality between the side missions and the main missions. And that's not even to say the side missions are bad because they're good. But these main missions are just so enjoyable in terms of story, in terms of action, in terms of context for your battles that anytime I was playing this game, within a given session, it didn't feel complete until I actually accomplished a couple main missions within any one play session. And by the end, I was like, all right, I just want to do main missions. And that's mainly how I felt about the open world and the side missions available. So all in all, I recommend this game. I mean, it's a good game. It's a beautiful game. It is a game that is worth playing. It's obvious that the creators who made this game put a lot of passion. They really cared about building a world and a story and a experience that was worth having and that is felt while playing a game. That being said, the gameplay eventually got repetitive. The story is overall generic, and there are little tweaks and things that I didn't really appreciate within the game. That being said, I will give this game an 8 out of 10. It is a good game. It is a good game. I recommend that you play it and let me know what your thoughts are when you finish or if you played this game in the comments below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I appreciate y'all time. Peace.